Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So, you are most likely drinking birth control, heart medications, heroin, methamphetamines, opioids right out of your tap water. What? I know, right? So, here's the thing the wastewater treatment system cannot remove these prescription drugs. They can't remove illicit drugs, and they can't remove a lot of chemicals that's going into the wastewater treatment system. So what happens is people now are taking their prescription medications and they're dumping them down the sink, or they're flushing them down the toilet instead of taking them to a disposable place, a pharmacy or something that'll guarantee their disposal. So what's happening is those chemicals cannot be removed out of the wastewater treatment system. So what does that mean? That means they come right back into your tap. You are showering with them, you're drinking them, you're giving them to your kids and your family, and you're even cooking with them. And it means that those chemicals, those drugs are going into your system. Now, it is stated that the research shows that in the metropolitan areas that this has been researched. It is in the parts per billion and sometimes in the parts per trillion. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't accumulate over time and pick up over time, meaning that as time goes on, there's going to be more of these drugs in your water that you are going to be drinking. So, here's how it works. So aside from just dumping your prescription medications down there, you say, well, you know what? I've never dumped prescription medications down the toilet. I've never dumped them down the sink, and that's fine. But what ends up happening is people take these prescription medications. Well, when they go into your body, they have to leave your body somehow. So when you use the bathroom and you excrete these into the toilet, they end up going in through the wastewater system and coming back out. Kind of gross, isn't it, to think that you are ingesting somebody else's chemicals and prescriptions that they excreted out of their system. So, long term, this has fundamental health issues here. So we are looking at taking drugs that aren't supposed to be prescribed to us, and they're going into our body. Now, a lot of this research and a lot of the science is unclear and unknown with what these chemicals and these prescription drugs are going to cause in the human body as time progresses on, especially when we take it out of the parts per million and parts per trillion. What happens when we start bringing these into the parts per hundreds of thousands? So what we have to do to really focus in on this, and what we have to do is realize that there is a problem here with the wastewater treatment system. So it's not a simple fix. So it's not a matter of just taking your prescriptions down and dumping them in a safe drop at one of your local pharmacies or anything like that. The problem here is the governments, the cities, and the states have to get on board with this and recognize that there's a problem, because they're the ones that have to fix it. And it's very cost intensive, it's very time intensive, and it's very inconvenient to do. I mean, you have to think what it would cost to uproot someplace like Los Angeles and their whole wastewater treatment system to go in and put something in that could possibly take these chemical drugs out. So, and that's what we're looking at as far as governments and cities and the states and stuff like that is, how are we going to address this problem? Because it is a problem and they are well aware of it. But it comes down into money. It comes down into time. And how are you going to give everybody water during this process of switching everything over and accommodating this risk that we have discovered of prescription drugs and medications being put into the wastewater treatment system? What's more alarming about this is it isn't necessarily the prescription drugs, although that is really alarming, because you have opioids out there and all these other things out there that are just have crazy side effects. But what's even crazier is people that are ingesting heroin, methamphetamine, all that other stuff. They're going and excreting, and it's going through your wastewater system, and we are getting parts per billion and parts per trillion of these chemicals in our water. Well, my thing is why aren't the states and the governments coming up with a fundamental plan to fix and resolve this? Of course it's expensive. Of course it's an inconvenience. And of course, there is a lot of consequences and impacts that come with accommodating this fundamental issue here. But nonetheless, we cannot let this issue progress. We can't let it go further. But in the meantime, here's what you can do. What you can do now is if you have extra prescriptions laying around that you're not using and stuff like that, don't throw them in the toilet. Don't throw them in the sink and send them down your pipes and into the wastewater system. Take them down to CVS, Walgreens, any place like that that will take your prescriptions. And a lot of times, even if you have illegal drugs that you have found with your child, or you're wanting to give up on your give up drugs yourself, do not take those and put them down the toilet and put them down there. A lot of people don't realize this. You can go down to CVS pharmacies, you can go down to Walgreens, and you can put these things in a safe, in a box, and they don't ask questions, they don't get your name, they don't get any of your information, no law enforcement will be contacted or anything like that. So it's really at no risk to you to give up and seize these prescription medications and illegal drugs, a correct way to get them off of the streets and out of our water system. Anyway, so what we need to do here is we need to start thinking in the future, in future forward motion, on how we're going to correct this issue. We need to start making this an issue before this fundamentally gets too big of a problem and we start seeing severe side effects from this. And the side effects will come because, just like it states in those commercials, have you ever watched a prescription drug commercial and seen all the side effects that are being listed during that beautiful, sweet music that they're playing? Lymphoma, heart disease, heart failure, nausea, diarrhea, all that. Anyway, let's be smart. Let's not take our prescription drugs or illegal drugs and dump them down the toilets or the drains. And let's not take our prescription drugs and dump them down the drains either. Anyway, I hope this was informative. There's plenty of information out there. So if you want to find more information about exactly how many chemicals you're ingesting and stuff like that, go ahead and give it a Google search. There's been so much research done about this, so much research. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions, comments, fears, or doubts, put it right there in the comments box, and I promise I'll get back with you. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.